Hey YouTube, Washburn Force Series. So talking about the original forces here. I did a video on wings which are this shape of Washburn, I don't know, a few weeks ago, because I've now got the full set of them. This base I got just before that, one of those ones that kind of popped out of nowhere, but I do know a bit about the Force series. So as I said in the wings one, Washburn were made by a company called Yamaki in Japan, sort of starting in 78, something like that. And they did two basic types of electric guitar. Well, these are basses, but so you get your wings, which are that shape, sort of double cut Les Pauly type thing, and you get stage series, which were this shape, sort of like kind of an explorer-y thing. So these are both Yamaki built, and then I love that thing. It's an 8-string bass. It's not a particularly common one, that. So what they did was, at the time when I was doing the wings video, there's two wings basses, this one and the Scavenger, which is a cheaper one. There was also a bass called an SB40, which was basically this bass, but this shape. So if you just imagine, it's like, if you kind of look at it, you can sort of see, this sort of bulgy area is kind of the same shape as the wing series, but obviously just had a different outline to it. It was neck through. But then in 1982, which actually the internet says 1983 that these came out, but 1982 there was a production change at Yamaki when Washburn wanted an awful lot more guitars, so they spec'd things down and brought out some new models. New models being the Force series. So the reason I know it's 82 because this one here, this is a Force 3. It's 1982, so they did exist in 82. This one's 83. That one there is a Force 2 with one pickup. That's also 1983, and that one there is another Force 2 as well, which I always found annoying. I wish that the one pickup one was a Force 1, so then I would have the Force 1, Force 2, the Force 3. So that's a Force 2. That's the one that used to belong to the actor who played Onslow in Keeping Up Appearances. Yeah, so the main, so I've got, that's not the full lineup. I do have another one. I've got a Force 4, which is another bass. So the original lineup, Force 2, 3, 4, so this is how it works. See, when you look at it, the neck comes into in below the scratch plate. So that's how they get away with that sort of neck scoop. If you look at the back, I've actually got a couple of things set out particularly for this video. One of them is if I take one of the guitars, right? So looking at it, it's got a wee bit of a Fender lead sort of look, a wee bit to it, but it is in actual fact pretty much a Strat. It's different roundabout, as I said before, where this bit across the middle here is kind of a bit more wing shapey, but the rest of it is a Strat. The difference being, so even the horns are the same, but you can see where the neck comes in. That's because it doesn't have the heel. Instead, it goes in below the scratch plate, which is a great feature. The guitar itself is pretty much the same length as a Strat. It just, you see, it seems much shorter because you can get really high up the fretboards really easily. Pure supreme access. So these type of models. So the reason the Force 4 is in bits is because I bought it broken, and what happened is, if you imagine you're not going to snap a maple neck, so what's happened is it's been in like this and it's fallen and it's going and it's split the body, and I've tried patching it and sawing it and sanding it to try and get it, but I think basically I'm just going to have to build another body for it, and I'll finally actually have the Force 4 base. So you get the Force 2 being either normally two humbuckers. I don't think does it have a coil split? I don't think it's got coil splits. I think it's just a 3-way switch, two humbuckers. It's the Washburn power sustain pickups in it. Basically these are DiMarzio clones, or they're Ibanez Super 70s basically. The bridge is a sort of variant on the harmonic lock bridge, so you get brass saddles, but it's a tremolo bridge. I think they did come as hardtail as well. It's the same. Anyways, this has also got a sort of, just say a bit more modern, sort of rubbed in wax type finish. You know, you can see the grain through it rather than it being like shiny, solid. It's sort of, you get kind of quite a lot of bases that are made out of this sort of stuff. Maybe it's to do with the type of wood it's made of. So these have a slightly V-shaped profile on the neck. Whereas the 1982 one, which is this one here, which is this one's been modified at some point. I think this one used to be a hardtail, and it's now got a Telecaster bridge. This was before I bought it. I actually bought this one by mistake. And it looks like it originally had, at some point, it's had 3 Telecaster bridge pickups in it. But this one is a 1982 one. It's got a one-piece neck. Yes, it's got a one-piece neck, which is fantastic, and it's like a Toblerone. It's super V-shaped. So the V-shaped thing, I think, kind of happened in 1982, and then later on ones, they went to a more normal dimension. That was one of the things that really surprised me about this base. I was totally expecting the V-neck. It's maybe slightly V'd, but that one there, I don't know if you're going to see it in the video. Not really. It's a total Toblerone. Now these are asymmetrical, so it's like this side of it is shorter, the top side's shorter than this side. You know, the apex of the triangular bit's kind of not in the middle, it's off to, you're looking at it, you're, whatever it's off to this side. But this one, it doesn't have that. So 1983, there was obviously some sort of turnover point. I don't think that base had a serial number on it. I think there was a while when they didn't have serial numbers at all, or the serial number was on a sticker. I don't think that one's got the, I don't remember knowing what year that one was. Yeah, so the Force series, you got the Force, as I said, I just started with the Force 2, 2 humbuckers, the Force 3, 3 single coil pickups, the Force 2 again with 1 humbucker. I don't know why I didn't call it Force 1. You get the Force 4, which is that base. You get the Force 8, which is basically the same as the Force 4, apart from it's got binding on it. And it does make it look much cooler. There is also a Force 6, which is the one that you get as BBR. You know, like the black red series, because it needs to have binding to be in the BBR series. So there is a Force in the BBR series. And I've only ever seen BBR ones of them, and one white with blue binding, I think it was. So they're quite rare, the Force 6. And then, so they were made at Yamaki. As going back to the previous video, Yamaki died in 1983 because they had something right wrong with a shipment of guitars and they lost all their money. So the leftover Yamaki stuff was taken over by a company called Chushin, or a factory called Chushin, and they finished off some of these and made their own. So sort of 1982 is pretty much definitely Yamaki. 1983 could be Yamaki before they shut, or the first of the Chushin ones, but I think by the time it got to sort of 84, 85, I don't think they would still have had Yamaki stuff left over, although maybe that's what the BBR series are, I don't know. So that is the Force series, as in Force 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. There's also an active one. It might be called a Force 20 or something like that. There's an active one and there's one with different pickups in it. But I think they're a wee bit later. They were ever made by Yamaki. The Force name continued on though. And there's what guitars made called the Force series that are like G1, G2, G3. That's their model numbers, and they are no longer this instrument. They've got a headstock like that. This sort of hockey stick headstock. They've got this headstock, and the body is sort of it's sort of stratty, sort of somewhere between a Strat and that, kind of not really eye-catching. Sort of a bit. I'm not really that keen on the model. You see very few of them in UK though. I think they're more for Americans. I think that kind of happened for some reason. We seem to get Washburns up to sort of 83, and then we got the BBR ones, but didn't seem to get any of the other ones. There's an awful lot of other ones if you look in the catalogues. There's an awful lot more models that from sort of later on after post Yamaki, sort of 84, 85, 86, that we don't see very many of, but you see them in America all the time. So they were that was called the Force Series, and they were like G1, G5 and all that. And then after that, I think this is still called the Force Series. This is a G15, which, as you can see, by 1987, Super Strats had arrived. So this is basically just a sort of Strat with a pointy headstock and a crazy paint job. It's still a nice guitar, but it's not the same league as it's not as classy as these. Yeah, so the Force Series, also what happened, if you look back a bit, I had a Force bass called an ABT, something like that, and they continued on into the 90s, and the Force basses no longer look like this. They were B20, a B5, maybe the one I had. I think they kind of, Washburn tend to reuse, because at one point a B20 looked like that. That's a B28, so that is a B20, but later on they had like a 4-strat in here, and interestingly I was talking about the, you know how the neck goes on and goes in below it's hidden by the scratch plate. What happens, I only noticed this a couple of weeks ago, they kept this idea, it's just that it was no longer been linked behind the scratch plate, it just painted that bit black. So if you look at modern basses, it's quite common to see like this piece of wood, because they've used it to extend the neck, but it doesn't really seem to have taken off very much on guitars, and I guess maybe you're limited by the fact you can't put the pickup. You can't put another pickup here because it's right in behind the neck pocket. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the Force Series, which I'm also a huge fan of. They're fantastic. Very Stratty type thing. I might have a wee jam soon as I've got stuff out. I'll maybe start off with the guitar then. This heavily modified one. Let's stick that into the bass, and then that'll stop making a noise. Duncan in the bridge in this one. Kind of work distortion on that. As the bass in tune, we just don't know. Sort of. Phaser. Phaser wasn't right. I quite like this guitar. The only thing against it is I'm not a big fan of the black. Not black people are alright, I just don't like black guitars. I almost said something quite non-PC there. Maybe if I painted it yellow, that might be pretty cool. Just never really got down to it. I've never really used this guitar enough. It's a shame it's been butchered with the Telecaster bridge. I suppose you could argue it kind of, if it's got the Tele bridge and the Tele bridge pickup, it should kind of sound quite Tele-ish, which it kind of does. So, Washburn Force Series, brilliant guitars, much more a Fendery. Basically, it's their Fendery type thing as opposed to the Wing series. That's a bass, obviously, but the guitar versions are kind of Gibson-y, Les Paul-y sort of thing, whereas this is more Tele-Strat-y. That's something, someone actually told me this. I believe they might actually be 25-inch scale. So, actually, I'm about to find out whether they are actually 25-inch. No, they're not. Well, this one isn't. So somebody told me that, I think what's happened is he's read up, whoever it was that told me that. Yeah, it's Strat scale. So whoever it was that told me that the Forces are 25-inch scale, no they're not. You're thinking of the Wings. The Wings, that's the bass. The guitar versions of the Wings are 25-inch, but the Forces are 25.5, standard Fender fare. Fantastic guitar. I think one of the reasons they were probably expensive to make because you need a longer neck because it's got the extra, the guitars are the same as that bass neck, you can see where the neck bolts go, so the neck kind of comes into here or something, so you need a longer piece of wood. Although, actually looking at it, there's a separate piece been put on there. Actually, just looking at it there, construction wise, this is a one piece neck, so the skunk stripe is necessary. So the neck must be built, the skunk stripe must be put in, the truss rod put in, and then this extra piece here must be stuck on to extend the neck out a bit. It's what I think happened, because it goes over the, whatever that is, a walnut or whatever it is, it's the skunk stripe. So that's quite interesting. You can see this has had various things attached to it. I don't know why it would have two big screw holes like that for some other sort of bridge. These will be original because it will have had the harmonic lock bridge on it, whereas now it's obviously got the Tele bridge. And I think it's meant to be some sort of trim. In fact, there's two holes there. In fact, I've got a feeling, I think this had a Wonder Bar on it at one point, which I've still got to do a Wonder Bar video. I put one on my BC Rich Wave. I remember actually picking off some of the sort of, it's like a car head gasket, sort of rubber. Basically you get a gasket which just kind of looks like that, and some of it was still stuck on this. So this, before somebody, originally this would have had the hardtail bridge, which kind of looks like that, apart from it's not a trim. The harmonic lock one would have had one of them. Then they put a Wonder Bar on it, and then they put a Telecaster bridge pickup in it. Actually, kind of when you see a guitar of this era that's quite well used, there's quite a lot of wearing the fingerboard and stuff. Generally means it's probably quite a good guitar. And it's like when you get people who've upgraded things, I think that is actually a Fender bridge. But you generally find it back in the 80s. It wasn't so easy to get second-hand, used parts, so you had to buy expensive ones. So that's why it's got like a Seymour Duncan in it. And basically, I'm pretty sure I bought this guitar for less than what that pickup's worth. So whenever you see guitars that are kind of like this, I seem to remember this being one of those eBay ones where it was ending at a funny time, and I think it was like 60 quid or something like that for it. I think it was maybe a wee bit more than that. And then sort of forgot about it and I decided against it sort of thing, and I ended up getting it. It was like, what? Totally supreme budget. I mean, it's quite beat up and stuff, but it actually functionally, it's alright. It's the neck's in good nick. It's got the original George Washburn tuners. Again, slightly different again. It's like looking at where the wee screw is. On this one they're kind of on the bottom. On the Stage series they're right on the edge, like at 90 degrees to where they are there, but on a normal guitar they're sort of at 45 degree angle. So I'd imagine their go-to. This has also had some sort of string clamp up here. I'd imagine that's probably to do with the Wonder Bar. The other bit of the Wonder Bar you get, because you couldn't get the Floyd Rose part of the nut clamp, you needed a license for that, but you can just put a clamp behind the nut. Another thing I should probably mention is these have got bullet truss rods which are brilliant. Every guitar should have bullet truss rods, just for the sheer fact of you can actually see where the Allen key goes, and you can see that you're putting the right Allen key into the hole. When you've got it like the way it does on a normal guitar, it's kind of in at the bottom end, and you know, it's in a hole that's full of fluff and stuff, and you're sort of poking the Allen key in, and you can't actually see whether you've got the right one. You know, is the Allen key spinning, or is it too big, or so you can actually see what's going on. Interesting, actually, the basses I've noticed are there's truss rod adjustments in here, not at the top, on both of them. So that's interesting. I take it they're all these three are all bullet. Yeah, so this is definitely Yamaki 82, one piece Toblerone neck. That one's 83. The neck on it is not one piece, even though it's still a maple neck, and it's the same with that one, and neither of them have the Toblerone neck, although they are still what you would describe as a V, like a mod, a bit of, you know, the vintage Fender ones. That V shape, yes, they are that, but they're not this, which is just like pure extreme Toblerone again, which I keep saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, eventually one day you will have a shot of a Washburn Stage or Force that's got the Toblerone neck, and as soon as you go like, I know what you're talking about, I understand, it feels like you're holding on to one of those big Toblerones you get at airports, which makes it feel really thin when you're playing at the edges. It's really, I really rate a V-shaped neck. Fantastic. It makes it seem quite deep, quite thick that way, but because it's got its strength in the thickness, it's really thin here and here. It's hard to describe. I can see why Clapton preferred them. Yeah, managed to make it up to half an hour. So, a long one. I'm really hungover today, so I just kind of hit play and see what happened. My pal had a bottle of LD last night. My pal, first time he's been over, I think maybe even this year. Good laugh. Rock on!